how are you?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Okay, Gayatri Mataji, we can start with the Mangalacharan.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful Mangalacharan recital. Your pronunciation is superb, and we have to all learn from you. Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you,
Panchali Mataji.
Krishna Mataji, apologies to all of you because I'm slightly late. Apologies.
It's okay,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
We just started. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining in, and please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody who have joined the group and are about to join or will be watching this later on YouTube. Mataji, I know in spite of working today, you have taken up this service, and we really appreciate it a lot. So we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 3, Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is Vidura approaches Maitreya. And today we are on text 25, Mataji. I hand over to you. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. So I'm just going to bring up the verse on the system, Mataji, if that's okay. Just trying to. Should have had it ready. Hare Krishna, thank you very much again for giving me the opportunity to be able to do service to Srimad Bhagavatam and all of you. Before I start, I pay my obeisances to my Guru. Without his mercy, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. In fact, whatever I say, had it not been for his mercy, for his teachings, and also for the teachings of the other teachers, I wouldn't have been able to say anything. And ultimately, the mercy of Radharani and Krishna all the time. So with their mercies and with their blessings, I'm going to read Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, verse number 23. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vidura Vacha Jnanam Param Svatmaraha Prakasham Yad Yogeshwara Ishwaraste Bhaktum Bhavan Prahati Yati Vishnu Prityasva Prityartha Kritascharani. Translation. Vidura said, O Uddhava, because the servants of Vishnu, the Lord, wander in the interest of serving others, it is quite fit that you kindly describe the self-knowledge with which you have been enlightened by the Lord himself. Put by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The servants of the Lord are actually the servants of society. They have no interest in human society other than to enlighten it in transcendental knowledge. They are interested in imparting knowledge of the relationship of the living being with the Supreme Lord, the activities in the transcendental relationship, and the ultimate goal of human life. That is the real knowledge which can help society achieve the real aim of human welfare. Knowledge in the matter of the bodily necessities of eating, sleeping, mating, and faring, transformed into various branches of advancement of knowledge, is all temporary. A living being is not the material body, but an eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Being, and thus the revival of his self-knowledge is essential. Without this knowledge, the human life is baffled. The servants of the Lord Vishnu are entrusted with this responsible work, and so they wander over the earth and to all other planets in the universe. Thus, the knowledge which was received by Uddhava directly from the Lord deserves to be distributed in human society, especially to persons like Vidura, who are highly advanced in the devotional service of the Lord. Real transcendental knowledge descends in the disciplic succession from the Lord to Uddhava, from Uddhava to Vidura, and so on. Such supreme transcendental knowledge is not possible to achieve by the process of imperfect speculation as performed by the so-called learned mundane wranglers. Vidura was anxious to know from Uddhava that confidential knowledge known as Paramamstitam, in which the Lord is known by his transcendental pastimes. Although Vidura was older than Uddhava, he was anxious to become a servant of Uddhava in the transcendental relationship. This formula of transcendental disciplic succession is taught by Lord Chaitanya also. Lord Chaitanya advises that one receive transcendental knowledge from anyone, whether a Brahmana or a Shudra, a householder or a sannyasi, provided that the person is factually conversant with the science of Krishna. A person who knows the science of Krishna is factually a bona fide spiritual master. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Thank you, Mataji's and Prabhuji's again. And so a very, very interesting verse, very a verse with quite a few points to look into. Now we see over here Vidura asking and requesting Uddhava to impart the knowledge to him, impart the knowledge that the Lord has given to Vidura, to Uddhava, and Uddhava requesting the knowledge, and Vidura requesting the knowledge from Uddhava. When I was reading this verse, I thought I picked up a few points and I thought I'd share that with you. And again, it's open to discussion. Please do contribute and please do correct me wherever I'm going wrong. And the few points which I picked up on was that there is, right at the beginning, first of all, Vidura wanting to know about this knowledge. Now, Vidura himself, he's a great devotee. This knowledge is nothing, it's not new to him, but yet we see how eager he is to know about this knowledge. So the first point I picked up on was that what should be the intensity of our knowledge? Secondly, who can impart the knowledge? What is Gyan and Vigyan? The fourth is, what is the role of the servants of the Lord? And the last part is, what do we conclude from all of this? So what should be the intensity of our knowledge? Who can impart the knowledge? What is Gyan and what is Vigyan? What is the role of the servants of the Lord? And what should we conclude from all of this? Now, to discuss the first point, what should be the intensity of our knowledge? Thought we just quickly remember a pastime which we have heard before in this forum, that of Bilva Mangal Thakur, where he was, he was the son of a very rich South Indian Brahmin, and he was addicted to go to visiting a prostitute every single night. And it happened that one night there was a storm, and he had to cross a river to be able to visit the prostitute. However, his urge to visit the prostitute was so much that it overcame any other obstacles and barriers that he thought could possibly be. So that urge overtook any other fear of any barriers that could come in his way. And so notwithstanding the storm, without caring for his life, he jumped into the river, crossed that river, which was very, very risky. The waves were really high, reached the other side of the river, reached the house of the prostitute, saw the door closed. Again, not being, despondent about the fact that the door is closed, he jumped over the door, and when he jumped, he actually caught hold of a snake. And then, obviously, so there was the jumping, which was risky. He caught hold of the snake, which was again life-threatening. And then he finally reached, the door of the prostitute. And then the prostitute, then she saw him. She was very, very surprised. And her name was Chintamani. And Chintamani, surprised to see him, and said, "How did you come here? I just thought you would be able to come here today." To which Bilva Mangal Thakur said, "But how could I not? Because I cannot live without, coming to you." And so that is when Chintamani said that had you called out Krishna with this much intensity, you would have found Krishna. You would have got Krishna. So when we think of this, and so that's the reason Bilva Mangal Thakur, who lived to almost 700 or 800 years, and there are histories, we see later on how he actually takes out his own eyes, he blinds himself, just because he just did not want to engage in any kind of material sense gratification, which he was fearing that his attachment to sensual pleasure of the flesh was overtaking his bhakti, and so he blinded himself later on. But we see over here the intensity with which he actually visited Chintamani's house, and what Chintamani said was so true. He did not care about himself. He did not care what could have done. He could easily have lost his life any time during that journey between his home to Chintamani's house, but he did not care. He had that faith that I am going to reach the other side, and I am going to reach the house of Chintamani. So if we think of it, is this how we should really, really be wanting to know about Krishna? And the answer is yes, as we see from Vidura. Vidura knew about the knowledge. He was a self-realized person. And yet his urge was so intense to know more and more about the Lord that despite being self-realized, despite, even seeing the Lord himself, he had been in the company of the Lord himself, this huge urge to know more and more about the Lord, this thirst of knowing more, and the huge intensity of, wanting to know more, more and more about the Lord, that is immediately seen. And that is that is one of the key features of a true devotee. That a true devotee cannot, the quench the thirst for knowing Krishna, engaging in talks about him, loving Krishna, doing service to Krishna. For a true devotee, that thirst never there quenches. So there is more and more and more. So in the spiritual world, where we also have the same emotions that we have in this material world, there is also jealousy in the spiritual world, but jealousy in who can serve Krishna more, who can love Krishna more. And so there is this eternal want of doing more and more and more for Krishna. And that only happens when there is true love. Ahaituki apratihata, as the Bhagavatam tells us, when love is unmotivated, when love is unconditional, and when love is continuous. And we see that in every single verse that we see in this chapter, especially on Vidura and Uddhava, we see that kind of love coming through. And we are urged to love Krishna in the same way. Now, who can impart this knowledge? And we see over here, Uddhava, he's younger than Vidura. And still, we see that, Vidura is asking him for the knowledge. And why is that so? Uddhava, the Lord gives everything to Uddhava. In the earlier verses, we see that the Lord even gives the knowledge of Dwarka and Vrindavan to Uddhava, which he did not give even to Lord Brahma. So Uddhava was very, very capable of instructing Vidura. But even before we come to Uddhava, we see just how many times we are told, we are reminded in Srimad Bhagavatam about who really is the person who can impart knowledge. And Prabhupada reminds that to us over and over again. And if we go right back to Sukadeva Goswami himself, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that despite being the truest of devotees, the purest of devotees, even Sukadeva Goswami, because he came into this material world, even he was tested. And we know of the birth of Sukadeva Goswami, how he was the parrot in the gardens of Radharani and Krishna, and he used to sing beautifully to keep Radharani and Krishna entertained. And then he was instructed by Radharani to go and impart the knowledge in the material world. And to cut a long pastime short, where he flew and he came to the place where Lord Shiva was giving the knowledge to Mother Parvati. And Lord Shiva said that, to Mother Parvati, I'm going to say this, but don't fall asleep because it's quite long. And so I want you to make a noise that you are listening to it. Mother Parvati obviously, fell. She was listening to it, but she did unfortunately fall asleep. Now, in the Shastras, it said that when true knowledge is given, and we'll come to what really is knowledge, when true knowledge is given, the etiquette, the Vedic etiquette is that one should ask permission before one is actually in receipt of this knowledge. And that is because this is confidential knowledge. This is not just any bookish knowledge that is sold in the market, but this knowledge really has to be understood. So it was very, very strictly maintained that only the people who are able to impart knowledge should impart knowledge. Only the people who are qualified to receive this knowledge should receive the knowledge. And so hearing knowledge by deceit or without asking permission is not allowed. So here we see the bird, the parrot, listening to knowledge that is being imparted by Lord Shiva without actually taking the permission of Lord Shiva, because he didn't want to disturb. And when Mother Parvati fell asleep, just to ensure that Lord Shiva continued with providing the knowledge, the bird kept making the noise, that acknowledging noise that yes, it is being heard. Whatever Lord Shiva was saying is being heard. And so once that was over, once Lord Shiva finished imparting the knowledge, he opened his eyes. He saw Mother Parvati was actually sleeping, and then that's where he looked around at who was that who was making the noise, and he saw that parrot. And Lord Shiva, being Lord Shiva, he got extremely angry. So he picked up his trishul, his trident, and he, ran after the bird. And that bird flew and flew and flew. And there you see, Vyasadeva's wife, she was praying to Mother Tulsi. And she was offering, she was doing Archman, so she prayed, she put water to Mother Tulsi, put flowers, and then she was doing Archman. So the bird, he became very, very small. And then he just, landed in the palm of the wife of Vyasadeva. And the wife of Vyasadeva, she actually, after the Ashman, she took as Charnamrit, she actually drank that. And along with that, the Sukdev Goswami, the parrot, he went inside. And he stayed in the womb, and he didn't want to come out. He didn't want to come. Lord Shiva was there. Vyasadeva came to know about it. Obviously, he's the Lord's incarnation. And Vyasadeva said, look, my wife, she's going to, days after days passed, years after years passed. It was 12 years. And Vyasadeva said, look, my wife is suffering, but my child is not going to come out if you are here. And so Lord Shiva said, no, that's fine. So I'm leaving. And Lord Shiva is Ashutoshi, forgave the bird, and he left. And still the child didn't want to come out. And he said, no, I don't want to, because I do not want to be immersed in Maya. So you've got to give me the promise that once I come out, I will not be wrapped or grasped by Maya. So Vyasadeva meditated on Vishnu, and Vishnu himself had to come and reassure Sukdev Goswami that no Maya will not be able to touch you. So Sukdev Goswami came out after 12 years and immediately grew to a 12-year boy, and immediately left towards the jungle without any clothes. And then we see, in the pastime where he passed some women bathing in the pond who didn't even bother when they saw a young boy, naked boy passing. They didn't even bother. And behind him was Vyasadeva, almost 80 years old, running after, following his son, wanting his son to come home. Because, he was fond of his son. He wanted his son to be with him. And as Vyasadeva passed the pond, the women actually covered their bodies. And Vyasadeva there stood there for a second and said, mothers, I am this old, I'm this old man. And you cover your bodies as I pass. And yet my young son, who did not have any clothes on him, he passed just a while ago, and you didn't cover your bodies at all. And then the women, some of them were damsels from the heavenly planets, and they said, when your son passed, he didn't see us. We realized that he didn't see us as a man's body or a woman's body. He just saw our souls. He is without the knowledge or without the power of individualizing people as men and women. He just saw us as souls, as Krishna's part and parcel. However, you have been in this world for a while. You are a grihasta. And although you are a very elevated devotee, but you know the difference between a man and a woman, which your son doesn't, and he doesn't know. He's without. So Sukdev Goswami was without Maya. Maya makes us think who is a man, who's a woman, and all the other things, just to make us, just so that people engage in all these different kinds of sense gratification. So this Sukhdev Goswami, who was without Maya, he went into the jungle and then he was praying and meditating, and another 4 years it came 16, and Vyasdeva was thinking that who shall I impart my knowledge, this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, because I'm getting old, and who should I do that? And one of his close friends was King Janaka, who's a Raj Rishi. So he's a king, but he's also a Rishi. He's a Mahajan as well, one of the greatest devotees. The Janak Maharaj said, you should impart this knowledge to your son. However, you cannot. This is the knowledge of the Lord, and the Lord has given it directly, to Lord Brahma, to Narad. It came directly to you. So you have to, although it's your son, and ideally, okay, it will be disciplic succession. However, you cannot just impart the knowledge to your son without testing that he is capable of imparting this knowledge. And so Vyasdeva said, can you please check that my son is ready to receive this knowledge? And so Janak said yes, and he called. So Vyasdeva knew that his son is not going to just come from the jungle. So he made some of his other disciples go to where Sukhdev Goswami was meditating, and they started reciting verses from the Bhagavatam about the Lord's pastimes. And that is where that allured Sukhdev Goswami. And then he said, where did you hear about all of this? And they said, come, we will tell you. And they took him to Vyasdeva, and Vyasdeva said, yes, I will tell you all of this. I will tell you more about Krishna, but you've got to go and visit my friend first and see, because he's going to check whether you're really, he's going to tell you something. So Sukhdev Goswami, again, without any clothes, he went to Janak Maharaj, and he went and told the guards that I want to visit him. Janak Maharaj from inside said, ask him to wait. Ask him to wait. And then this is Sukhdev Goswami. Now he waited for a day, 2 days, 3 days, for 7 days and 7 nights. He waited outside. Not once did he think that, who is this guy? Who is this king? I am such a great, soul. I meditate on the Lord. Not once did he think that. And then after 7 days, Janak Maharaj told his guards, bring him in. And then the guards took him in. And then as he was passing, there were women all around. And then, as he reached Janak Maharaj, he saw there was women hanging onto him on his lap, behaving really badly with him. And then Sukhdev Goswami just didn't bother. He just paid his obeisances and said, my father asked me to come to you and take your darshan and take knowledge, acquire knowledge from you. He did not even comment on the fact that, how can a man who was surrounded with women, had women on his lap, a king who made him stand outside for so many days, how is he actually going to be my guru? And so that's when Janak Maharaj said, you are ready for the knowledge because your hunger for the knowledge is greater. Maya hasn't touched you. You do not see what's happening around the world. That does not, impact on your brain. What you want is just the knowledge. And he tells Vyasdeva, give this knowledge to your son. So we see when this knowledge is given, the Lord chooses the right people. He chose Sukhdev Goswami, who came who came amidst a lot of sages, great sages, and they all woke and rode, they all stood up to pay obeisances to this 16-year-old boy, who was the only person who they thought would be able to give the knowledge to Parikshit Maharaj, because when he received the knowledge from his father, and he's the only person who's capable of giving the knowledge to Parikshit Maharaj. So similarly, we see over here, Krishna, Maitreyi, the great Rishi, was there. However, Krishna did not choose anyone else, not the Pandavas, not anybody else. not anybody else to give this knowledge, the knowledge that he gave to Uddhava. But he gave that only to Uddhava because he thought Uddhava was the best person to receive that knowledge. Because Uddhava was, his meditation on Krishna was higher than anybody else at the time. He meditated constantly on Krishna. And such powerful was this meditation. They used to, sit together. They used to have lunch together. And it's said that Uddhava was actually born fair-skinned. When he was born, his skin was fair. However, his meditation on Krishna was so intense that is how his skin actually grew darker. And he wore clothes that were given to him by Krishna. So he looked like Krishna. And that is the reason, Krishna thought, he gave them the knowledge of the Vrajavasis, he gave them the knowledge of Dwarika. So he was a direct disciple of Brihaspati. So he had that knowledge. Lots of other people had that knowledge. Lots of other people were great devotees as well at the time. But Krishna himself took advice. He used to take advice from Uddhava. And he consulted in him in so many things. So Uddhava was the expert, and that is the reason, we see that Vidura is asking Uddhava for this knowledge, even as we see in this verse. Vidura knew that, Uddhava was younger than him, but Vidura knew that Uddhava was not just any great devotee. There's a difference between a great devotee and the devotee being Uddhava. And that is the reason Vidura approached Uddhava very, very humbly and requested him to impart the knowledge to him. And we see the humility at both ends. We see here, first of all, Vidura's real urge to know more and more about the Lord, a great devotee himself. And we see him asking or requesting Uddhava to impart the knowledge to him, who he knew is the best person at the time after the Lord to give him that knowledge. So I thought that was a very, very interesting thing. And so what is really knowledge? This knowledge that, Krishna gives to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. What is Gyan? What is Vigyan? What really is knowledge? And then, we see Krishna giving this knowledge to, we see Bhishma Deva giving that knowledge to Yudhishthira in the Kurukshetra battlefield. We can see Krishna giving the knowledge to Uddhava. We see Kapil Deva giving the knowledge to his mother, Devahuti. So what really is this knowledge? And we see in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna about what really knowledge is. And Prabhupada mentions over here a bit as well. He says that in the purport, he mentions that knowledge in the matter of bodily necessities of eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing or defending, that really is not knowledge, because that is temporary. And the living being is not a material body, but it's an eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Being, Prabhupada says. And so revival of that self-knowledge is essential. And that is what knowledge is. Without this knowledge, the human life is baffled. And that is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita as well. Krishna talks about the Kshetra. Krishna talks about the material body, which is the Kshetra, the Kshetrajna, the knower of that material body, the individual soul. Krishna talks about the super soul, who does not know just one Kshetra, not just one body, but every single body, every single living entity, every single atom. There is Krishna, the super soul. And so, we are told about that we are not the soul, we are the material, we are not the material body, we are the soul. The soul is eternal, the soul never dies, and the soul is imprisoned in this encasement of material body, and we are all under the three modes of material nature, played by Maya. And Krishna is the Supreme, and we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. We are told that this is not our original abode, and we must actually get that Krishna Prem. We must endeavor to know Krishna, to be able to go back to the spiritual world. And I was listening to Gauranga Prabhu earlier today, and he was just passing by when a passersby just asked him, who are you? And he said, Hare Krishna. And he asked, the passersby just asked, oh, so what is the purpose? What is the aim of life? And Gauranga Prabhu said, it is to find the true purpose of life. And what is the true aim of life? What is the true goal of life? What is the purpose of life? What we are also told in the Chatushloki in Canto 2, through the three stages, through Sambandha, knowing what relationship we have with this Lord. We have known He's the Supreme Lord, of Prayojana, of Abhidya, of reaching that Krishna Prema. That is the goal of life, to be there, to reach there. And it doesn't matter whether Parikshit Maharaj had 7 days, but he achieved that in 7 days. Kulashekha, I can't pronounce his name, Kulashekara Maharaj, he only had 48 minutes, and he perfected his life in 48 minutes. He got liberated. So it does not matter the time, how much time we have. What we need is that intense want of knowing Krishna. And then, as Prabhupada said, it will take you just 1 minute to know Krishna. And this is what knowledge is, to know Krishna, to find that. However, Prabhupada doesn't stop there in the purport, and he says it's not just knowing this, because just having knowledge, just having gyan is not, that's not enough, really. I mean, and that is the reason when we read the Bhagavad Gita, we see there is the Gyan Yoga, and today is the International Day of Yoga. And again, I was listening to a clip by Keshav Maharaj, and he said that the whole Bhagavad Gita, it is of yoga. We hear about karma yoga, hatha yoga, jnana yoga, dhyan yoga, and ultimately, bhakti yoga. So what is really yoga? Yoga is nothing but connection. And connecting with whom? Connecting with that supreme being. That is the main purpose of our life. That is Gyan, knowing this. However, it doesn't stop there, because just by knowing, just by reading the Shastras is not enough. Just by, getting the knowledge is not enough unless and until one has Vigyan. What is Vigyan? That's the realization of Gyan. That is the practicing of Gyan. That is actually doing what we want to, achieve. Whether it's through the Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita 9.1, in the purport, Prabhupada says, we have to do that. We have to achieve this through Vigyan. We have to achieve this through the practice of devotional service. Whether it's the Navada Bhakti, the Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam, Vandanam Archanam, Apada Sevanam, Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam, whether it's through the Navada Bhakti, but one has to practice, one has to do the sadhana to be elevated to that spiritual consciousness. And that is simply, that's only to understand the soul, because Vigyan is realized knowledge. Once Krishna sees that there is that endeavor, once Krishna sees that we really, really want that want to know Krishna is really intense, what we started with, that is when Krishna, from within, he gives us that knowledge. And that is the beginning of our spiritual realization. And then we start, and that bhakti and realization and loving Krishna can only increase and increase and increase. And that is why we are being told over here again, as we come to this verse, that Vidura, he is a realized soul already. But why do these great souls, and Uddhava is such a great devotee, Why did Uddhava want to know more from Krishna? Why is Vidura wanting to know more from Krishna? It always comes back, God says, it all comes back to what we are told in the Shastras over and over again. It is to, fine tune that bhakti more and more and more. Because there is no end to bhakti. Bhakti does not have an upper limit. The more there is bhakti, the more it becomes sweeter. I mean, when Ramananda Raya was, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu questions Ramananda Raya, and through Ramananda Raya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again teaches us what is the perfection of life. Ramananda Raya starts right from, what is the perfection of life? It starts, okay, so Krishna says, the Vedas said, go from Varnashram, just doing one's duty. And then Mahaprabhu keeps asking him question, whether it's surrendering unto Krishna, in the Gita it says, Sarvadharman Parityajanam, Sharanam Vraja, whether it's surrendering to Krishna, or then whether it's serving Krishna in the various rasas, whether it's Shantaras, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and ultimately Madhurya Rasa, the more and more, the more the taste of bhakti, there is no upper limit. It just increases, the sweetness increases and increases and increases more and more as we do things that make Krishna happy, as we do things what Krishna has given to us according to the Vedic injunctions, as we get engaged with Krishna in the various rasas, right up to, the rasa, the Madhurya rasa of the Vrajavasis. And even in that Madhurya rasa, the topmost sweetness of the rasa of Radharani. And there is no limit to Radharani's want to serve Krishna, to know about Krishna, to love Krishna. Krishna himself doesn't understand that. And that is the reason, because there is no end. There is no end to that love of Radharani. And Krishna did not really understand how deep is that. Krishna himself had to take birth as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and still he did not understand. Still he used to, faint in that power of separation. So that is what we are being told, reminded. The more and more we are reading these verses, especially in the last few verses, especially this canto, we are reminded here more and more again through Vidura, through Uddhava, that this is the reason why devotees really want to know about knowledge, despite the fact that they are already quite elevated devotees. So then we come to the fourth point, that what really is the so who can really impart the knowledge? We already mentioned. So now we also see, why do we need someone to give us this knowledge? Now Vidura or Uddhava, they already knew the knowledge. Why did they require somebody else to give them more knowledge? Why is Vidura asking that knowledge again from Uddhava over here? Which reminds us of another pastime of the great devotee of Namdeva, and this my Guruji was saying about this pastime the other day, his class, that Namdeva, who's a great devotee of Vittal, another form of Krishna, who is worshipped quite a lot in Maharashtra, in West India, and in some parts of South India as well. And Vittal means someone who's Lord in waiting, and he stands on the brick. And there's perhaps another day we'll talk about the pastime as to why he's called Vittal. But Namdeva, he was a realized soul, and he used to talk to Vittal all the time. Since his childhood, he used to talk to Vittal as a he used to talk to him, converse with him all the time, to Vittal. And then one day he heard, he was just passing the village, and he heard a group of people talking. And they were saying, I mean, obviously people talk, people are envious, and they thought, they were not, they used to be envious of the fact that, Namdeva, he used to talk to Vittal, he used to talk to Krishna all the time. and they knew that. And he was talking, you know what, he's not a true devotee. I don't think he's actually, saying the right thing. It's all fake. He's not a perfect devotee. So now they've heard that, and he came home, and he asked Victor, I was passing today, and there were people talking, and they don't believe the fact that I talk to you. And they told me that I am imperfect. I talk to you. How can you only talk to me because you think I'm eligible to talk to you. So I mean he talked to Vittel as if his friend. And he said, I talk to you, Vittel, and we have that relationship. So why are the people saying that, not believing that fact that I talk to you, and why is it that the people think that I am imperfect in saying so? And immediately Vittel said, yes, you are imperfect. And so now Dave said, what do you mean? And Vittel said, you're imperfect because you talk to me, yes, and I talk to you because you call me with so much urgency that I have to come to you. So as Prabhupada says, if you call Krishna with that much urgency, Krishna is bound to come. Krishna cannot stay away if he hears someone calling him that urgently. So Vittel says, you call me with so much urgency, I have to come to you. However, you're imperfect because you still don't have all knowledge. You do not have a guru. That's why you're imperfect. And so Namdev said, so where can you go and find the guru? And so Vittel said, okay, go to he talked about a nearby forest, and he said, go there and you will see there's a dilapidated temple. You will find a pujari, a priest over there. Go there and you find your guru. So Namdev goes to that forest. He goes into that temple, almost, almost falling over a temple, and he goes into the middle, the altar, the garbhagriha, where the altar is kept, the deities are kept. He goes in there and he sees this old man, and he sees a very, very strange thing. This man was sleeping on the ground with his feet up. There was a Shivlinga, and his feet was on the Shivlinga. And Namdev was horrified. He said, what is this man doing? He's sleeping on the ground and his feet is on the Shivlinga. And he called the man, hey, you, I was thinking, Vittel sent him to me. Vittel sent me to him. This person, a person who doesn't even have the minimum respect towards Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, the greatest one, or one of the greatest of devotees. And then he called the man again and he said, what are you doing? So the man kept quiet and just smiled. So now they've got very, very angry. He said, what are you doing? And he shook the man really, really, roughly. And so the old man just smiled again and said, son, I understand you're angry because my feet is on the Shivlinga, but that's okay. Why don't you put my feet somewhere else? I'm not able to do that myself. I'm an old man. Why don't you put my feet somewhere else? And so now he just grabbed the feet and he just pushed it to the other side and then put it on the ground. As soon as he put that on the ground, immediately a Shivlinga arose from there. And the man's feet was on the Shivlinga over there again. There was, he didn't really notice it the first time. So again, he took the feet and he took it somewhere else. Wherever he was putting the feet, there was immediately a Shivling would arise, and then their feet would be on the Shivling. And that is when Namdev said, what is happening? And he knew that this man was no ordinary man. He paid his obeisances to him and he said, I'm really sorry, I don't understand, but I still do not understand why this is happening. And so this man said, but my son, you do not understand. The Lord is everywhere. The Lord is everywhere. Okay, so you can put wherever, even where we are putting our feet onto, the Lord is there. And this is something you always have to remember. You may see Vittal only in the deity form. Your deity Vittal talks to you, but no, the Lord is everywhere and all around. The Lord hears everything, sees everything. And so you do need that knowledge. And so now they've understood that, yes, he could speak to Vittal, but that knowledge, the further knowledge is required only when a guru can give us that knowledge. And so even when Krishna comes, even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, even when Lord Ram comes, they always take a guru. They always to show people that, yes, you may be a self-realized person, but you still need that guru to give you the total knowledge. Because the guru in the disciplic form, as Prabhupada mentions over here, it has to come in the disciplic form. It has to come from Krishna, from the right person, and then that knowledge has to be imparted. And one should never, never be just satisfied to think that I know enough. One must always aspire to know more and more from a guru. And so now they've accepted this man as his guru. And so we see Lord Rama, he has Vishwamitra Muni as his guru. Krishna and Balaram, they have Sandipani Muni. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has Ishwarapuri as his guru. And then later on, he took his sannyas diksha from Keshav Bharati. So we cannot, and that is the reason we have been told in the Shastras all along. That is the reason why Uddhava still wanted to know more from Krishna, not just as Krishna, but also Krishna as the Guru. That is why Vidura still wanted to know from Uddhava as Uddhava and accepted him as the Guru. Which makes us come to the last point, and we see now it's only about 7 minutes left. So what does Prabhupada tell us? What really is the role of such gurus? Now, such gurus, they are servants of the Lord. And servants, not as we define servants in this material world, servants as, servants of love, people who've been able to love Krishna in the right way. And Prabhupada says that these servants of Lord, they are actually servants of society, because they have no interest at all in human society other than imparting this knowledge of the Supreme Lord to others. And that is their ultimate goal of life. That is the real knowledge which should be given to the jivas in this material world who are suffering. We are all suffering in this world of matter and coming into this world lifetimes after lifetimes in this, the Kalam Ashwashvatam temporary world, and it's full of misery. And these servants of Vishnu, Prabhupada says, they are entrusted with the responsible work so that they wander, they go all around. They go all around the, not just the earth, not just different places. As we see sannyasis, they are traveling to different places in the world now, going to different countries to impart knowledge. But we see Narad Muni, he travels, all the 3 worlds. He goes to the higher planets, the lower planets, he goes everywhere. So these elevated devotees, they are given the work to impart the knowledge of the Lord, to distribute amongst human society, because that is their true work, that is their true goal. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Charita Kotari Kaho Krishna Upadesh. He says that in, and it's reported in Chaitanya Matya Leela 7.128. Charita Kotari Kaho Krishna Upadesh Amar Ankai Guru Hoya Tare Desh. So because they give this, instruct everyone this knowledge. And then in this way, everybody becomes a spiritual master and they're able to liberate all people. So and that is really what we have to do, because real transcendental knowledge, it descends in the disciplic succession from the Lord to Uddhava, we see over here. And then from Uddhava to Vidura. And then, there was a Prabhuji, still name of the Prabhuji, I wrote it down, Taran Krishna Prabhu. He was saying that, he was distributing books one day where a random person came and asked him for books, and how he was able to convince him to take the book. And he says that it just feels Krishna. Krishna makes it possible for us to give the knowledge even to random people. And that makes one so very happy. Even one thinks that, it's impossible to do something, Krishna makes it possible. So although Vidura was older than Uddhava, we see him wanting to be the student. And so that is what, that's the laws, and that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's direct instruction. Give this, and Prabhupada mentions this in the purport over here, whether it's a sannyasi, whether it's a grihasta, a shudra, a household, does not matter. As long as the person is factually convinced or conversant with the science of Krishna. So a person who knows the science of Krishna is a bona fide spiritual master. And even later on, Krishna says, in the Uddhav Gita, Krishna says that Tato sangam utsriya satsu sacheta buddhiman, in that verse, Srimad Bhagavatam 11.26.26, Krishna reiterates the fact that one should avoid bad company and associate only with devotees. So if one keeps on imparting knowledge, so if, from one person to another, the knowledge is imparted, that person gives the knowledge to somebody else. That's the society being, being imparted the knowledge. And what will happen because of that? That bad company, the bad company won't remain. And one should avoid bad company, this verse says, because with the realized instructions, the saints can actually cut the knot connecting one with the activities which are unfavorable for devotional service. So when this knowledge is imparted by a true guru, that cuts the knot connecting a jiva from the activities which are unfavorable for devotional service. And so that is the reason the gurus are so important. So these are just very, very potent words where realized souls, they penetrate the heart and they eradicate all misgivings that are accumulated from years and years and years of birth and years of, whether it's undesirable association or because of our karma. So for a non-devotee or even a devotee, it is so very important to actually acquire the knowledge, and not just acquire the knowledge, but practice that as well. Get the knowledge from a true person, from a true guru. Be like Uddhava, be like Vidura. And that is to conclude. And I'm sorry, I just really, rushed in the last bit. To conclude, this is the thing which we really have to remember, that, take lessons from Vidura, from Uddhava, from all the people we come across in the Shastras, in Srimad Bhagavatam, that life can be very, very difficult. Life can be mundane, life can be boring. But as soon as we hear Krishna consciously, hear Krishna Katha, we immediately should share Krishna Katha. That gives us the joy that is not explainable, because Krishna from within, he grants that. Krishna allows us, Krishna makes it possible for us to share that Krishna Katha, because that is the sweetest thing that the soul can hear, that the soul can do, because that is the constitutional position of the soul. So in this verse, we are once again reminded that the sweetest thing to do and the greatest service that we can do is hearing about Krishna, as Vidura does, and talking about Krishna as he is requesting Uddhava to do, because that is what connects us the closest and the most, and that is the sweetest message that can come to us, that can be given to the soul, and that can be given to one soul to another, that we are being taught over here again in this verse. So with that, I come to the conclusion of our discussion today, where we touched upon, to very, very quickly summarize, we touched upon how intense should our want be to know knowledge. We touched upon who can impart this knowledge, what really is Gyan and what is Vigyan. We touched upon why do we need someone to give us this knowledge, what is the role of the servants who impart this knowledge, and what conclusions can we draw from it, from all of this? So that is what we can actually take away from the verse today. So with that, we conclude our discussions. If I've made any mistakes, please do correct me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji, for this wonderful session. And I'm cognizant of the time, but are there any questions from the group? If there are no questions, Mataji, I can quickly ask a question. So in the case of Chintamani, she played the role of the guru. I know you touched on the role of the guru, and when I was thinking of what you will say when not the role, the qualification of the guru. I thought you'll say about the first verse of Nectar of Devotion, that the one who can tolerate all the urges and the sense of mind and jiva vacha. But here in this case, it was not even those things. It was just Chintamani played the role of a guru just by chastising
Yes.
the king.
Yes, because she was a devotee herself, and luckily she was a devotee herself. So Krishna allows us to learn things even from the most impossible situations. And that is what we see over here. So we see later in Srimad Bhagavatam how a king actually he had 24 gurus, and he learned even from an ant. We learn about that later in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, yes, the gurus need to be qualified. That is from whom we get the real knowledge from. However, the beginning of all of that, Krishna just gives us the actual, he provides the instance, he provides, makes us come across some situation where we realize certain things. And that's what Krishna's doing. That's what Krishna's doing. Yeah.
And
They
that
don't-
can be classified as Vijnan.
Yeah. Practicing all of that. So realizing the Gyan is Vigyan. So when you actually start practicing that, but we see, the fact that some people may have had the same situation and may not have realized it. Bilva Mangal Thakur, he took that advice and then he started practicing and he became a great devotee. So some kind of previous security is also required for us to start our bhakti from some time. Whereas for others, it may not be still the time for them to overcome all their past karma and then come to bhakti. So yeah, all of that is required, but Krishna makes situations possible, where he knows things need to be done. And so Chintamani is just a tool. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Any other questions or comments from the group? Yes, Gayatri Mataji, after you ask your question, kindly conclude the session as well. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yeah, beautiful session as always, Panchali Kar Mataji. Thank you so much. I don't have any questions, Mataji, but I just wanted to really say thank you for so many, which I did not know about the parrot and Sukdev Goswami's pastimes, like how the parrot went into Vyasdev's wife's stomach and then it went into Sukadev Goswami and all that. That was very nice. And also about Vittala, that pastime was also really nice, which I did not know. So very nice, Mataji. Thank you so much. It's beautiful. And Gnana Vijnana.
All of this I came to know from my Guruji, so Guru Maharaj. So, again, without his mercy, I wouldn't have been able to do anything.
Yes, Mataji, that's what having a guru, you are also lucky to have a guru there. We don't have one here. We are still struggling to find one guru, so that now I know how much importance it is to have a guru in our lives. But luckily, I'm connected with you all from because of Kritika. I can get connected with you all, and I'm learning a lot. Thank you so much, Kritika Mataji, for organizing these sessions.
Mataji, I'm really sorry. I know that the time's passing. On just your point, you don't have a guru. Mataji, can I please request you to meditate? Because the same example you gave, I was hearing about it from another Prabhuji, who was saying he was transferred to a place where it was a place which had there's an abundance of people from other religions, and Hindus, and especially Hare Krishnas, they were hardly there. So he was just really, really meditating and was praying to Krishna really urgently. I mean, your urge needs to be really urgent. That, where can I find a devotee? Where can I, find somebody? And then, almost literally, he said, within hours, I got a phone call saying, oh, I heard you've just been transferred here. I'm looking for somebody to associate with. And he found Hare Krishna devotees, it was unheard of. He said, I thought I'd have to stay here without a temple, without gurus. But he found someone, and also there was guru association as well. So I think Krishna makes the impossible possible. He just wants to see how much we want him. If we want him enough, Krishna makes it possible. Because he's just waiting to come to us. He is more eager to come to us than we are. And I can only speak for myself. Yeah.
Yes, Mataji, so true, Mataji, really, because even just getting association, I was so much, oh, I have nobody to associate. And then I found Induleka Mataji, just, after Mataji here, we have nobody, no Krishna conscious here. So how are you? Like, I want more association. And immediately she connected me with all of you. So Mataji, whatever you said should come true. I should also get a guru. And, there are tatas to devatas, they say. So sometime I think whatever you spoke right now should have me, us as well. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Beautiful, Mataji.
Gayatri Mataji, kindly end the session. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Sure, Mataji. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हर ग्रेस पांचालिकर माता जी की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। Hare Krishna. All devotees, to the assembled devotees. Ki jai.
Let us chant
Thank
the
you.
Mahamantra once in glorification of Panchali Kar Mataji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you for
Hare
the
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.